You know what separates the people who have from the people who wish they had. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not connections. It's what they do between 6 and 9 in the morning. 3 hours. That's the gap between ordinary and extraordinary. Think about it. We all get 24 hours. That's fair? That's democratic? Rich man, poor man, young, old, tall, short. We all get the same currency of time. But here's what's remarkable. Most people don't use the morning hours. They waste them. They squander them. They hit that snooze button like it's a slot machine, hoping today will be different. But it won't be. Not if you don't take action. The morning is sacred. It's the rudder of your ship. It's the thermostat that controls the temperature of your entire day. If you don't set it right in the first hour, nothing else matters. You can have the best goals in the world, the finest intentions, the clearest vision, but if you don't own your morning owns you. Here's what I've discovered about action. Action isn't born from feeling motivated. That's backwards. Most people are waiting. They're waiting to feel like doing something before they do it. That's a losing game. That's called procrastination with a nice outfit. Real people, successful people, they don't wait for the feeling. They take the action, and the feeling follows. They force themselves, and then here's the miracle, it becomes natural. Think of it like starting a car on a cold morning. The engine is sluggish. It needs time to warm up. But you don't sit in the driveway waiting for it to feel warm. You start it, you let it run, you push the accelerator, and soon enough, the engine comes alive. Your morning works the same way. You force it to start, you take that first action, and then the momentum carries you. Now here's the next one. Most people think success happens at night. They think success is something you find in a coffee shop at 3 in the afternoon or in a meeting room at 5 o'clock. They're only partially right. But where success truly gets built, where the real architecture of achievement gets constructed, it's in those quiet hours before the world wakes up. It's in the morning, before the phones ring, before the emails flood in, before everyone else is making demands on your time and energy. The morning is yours. That's the gift. That's the opportunity. No one's calling. No one's texting. No one's asking you for anything. It's you and your life. It's you and your choices. It's you and the person you're trying to become. What do you do with those hours? That's the question. Let me tell you what I learned years ago. I was sitting in a seminar, and the speaker asked us a simple question. What did you do yesterday morning before 9 o'clock? I couldn't answer. Not really. I fumbled through some vague response about checking the news, and that's when it hit me. I was drifting. I had big goals, sure. I had dreams, but I wasn't being intentional. I was reacting instead of acting. I was hoping instead of doing. So I made a decision, a commitment. I decided that my morning would be different. Not someday, not next month, the next morning. I woke up at 6. It felt criminal. My bed had never felt so comfortable. My pillow had never looked so inviting. Every part of me wanted to stay. But here's what I did. I got up anyway. I didn't wait to feel like it. I didn't negotiate with myself. I just did it. The first morning was terrible. I was groggy. I was grumpy. I was questioning every choice I'd ever made. But I did something. I drank water. I read a few pages. I wrote down 3 things I wanted to accomplish. Nothing dramatic, nothing revolutionary, just action. The second morning was easier. The third morning, easier still. After a week, something shifted. The resistance disappeared. What I thought would be a battle became a routine. What I thought would require discipline became a pleasure. My body, my mind, my spirit, they all adapted. And here's what's important to understand. They adapted because I forced them to, not because I woke up one day suddenly loving it. Jot this down. Action precedes motivation, not the other way around. You can't think your way into a new life. You can't meditate yourself into discipline. You can't journal yourself into success. Well, you can do those things, And they're valuable, but they're secondary. Primary is action, movement. Doing something before you feel like doing it. That's where transformation begins. So here's what the morning looks like for people who've built something significant. It's not complicated. It doesn't require a fancy gym membership or a subscription service or some ancient secret. It's simple. First, they move. They get their body engaged. Maybe it's a walk around the block. Maybe it's 20 minutes of exercise. Maybe it's stretching in the living room. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is they get blood flowing, they wake up their body, they send a signal to themselves that this is important, that this day matters, that they're willing to invest in themselves before they invest in anything else. Second, they read. Here's the key. Reading in the morning is like taking a shower for your mind. It washes away the debris from yesterday. It introduces new ideas. It expands your thinking. It puts you in conversation with the best minds who've ever lived. A CEO once told me he reads for 40 minutes every morning, not because he has time. He doesn't. He's busier than you are. He does it because he knows that those 40 minutes shape his thinking, his decisions, his life. What you read determines what you think. What you think determines what you do. What you do determines who you become. Third, they plan. They write it down. Not vague wishes, specific tasks, specific outcomes. Here's what I'm going to do today. Here's what success looks like today. Here's what matters. They put pen to paper. There's power in that. When you write something down, it stops being a thought and starts being a contract with yourself. You become accountable. You can't pretend you didn't commit. Fourth, they do one thing, just one. Before they do anything else, before they check email, before they take a call, before they do anything, they complete one thing they committed to. That builds momentum. That gives you a win before the day even really starts. You've already won, you've already succeeded, and that feeling carries you forward. Now, here's what I want you to understand. Most people don't do this. Most people wake up and immediately react. They check their phones. They read bad news. They see 17 things that demand their attention. And suddenly they're behind before they've even begun. They're responding to everyone else's agenda instead of executing their own. But here's the beauty of taking action in the morning. You get to shape the narrative. You get to decide what your day is about. You get to build before you respond to requests. You get to be the author instead of the character in someone else's story. I remember a conversation I had with a businessman years ago. He was struggling. Everything felt chaotic. He'd get home exhausted but had nothing to show for it. Just days blur into other days. I asked him about his morning. He looked at me confused. What do you mean? He said, I just wake up and see what happens. That's the problem, I told him. You're not seeing what happens. You're letting what happens see you. You're passive. You're reactive. You're a ship without a rudder. He started the next day, 6 a.m. He read, he planned, he did something for himself before doing anything for anyone else. 3 months later, he told me everything had changed. Not because the world changed, because he changed. His morning changed, and his day followed. His day changed, and his week followed. His week changed, and his year followed. That's how it works. It's not quantum physics. It's simple cause and effect. Here's what I learned from watching people. The ones who thrive, they all have something in common. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't wait for inspiration. They don't wait for the mood to strike. They show up. They take action. They do the thing even when every part of them is resisting. And here's the thing nobody tells you. The resistance goes away. The discomfort disappears. What feels foreign becomes familiar. What feels difficult becomes easy. But only if you keep going. Only if you force yourself through the early days when everything feels wrong and awkward and unnecessary. Think about learning to swim. The first time in the water, it feels unnatural. You thrash around. You panic. You question why you're doing this. But you keep going. And a few weeks later, it feels natural. Your body remembers. Your mind adapts. The thing that felt impossible feels inevitable. That's how all change works. That's how all growth works. You force yourself until it doesn't feel forced anymore. Jot this down. The first 2 weeks determine everything. The first 2 weeks, you won't feel different. You won't see dramatic results. You won't think to yourself, wow, this changed my life. You'll just think, I'm getting up early and doing some stuff. But that's exactly where most people quit. They expect fireworks, and they get embers, so they stop. They go back to bed, and nothing changes. But the people who keep going, they see something shift in week 3. A little more energy, a little more clarity, a little more confidence. And that's the fuel. That's what keeps them going. And by week 4, it's not even a decision anymore. It's automatic. Here's the next observation. Your entire life right now is the result of what you've been doing every morning for the last year. Let that sink in. Everything you have, everything you lack, everything you've built, everything you've failed to build, it's all connected to those early morning hours. Not just this week, not just this month. Years of compounding, years of small decisions made when it was dark outside and everyone else was sleeping. So the question becomes, what do you want your life to look like a year from now? Because that answer determines what you do tomorrow morning. That answer determines what you do every morning. You want to be more confident? That doesn't happen at night. That happens when you do things that make you proud, when you keep commitments to yourself, when you show up every morning and do what you said you'd do, even when no one's watching. That builds confidence, that builds character. That's real. You want to be smarter? Read in the morning. Feed your mind. You want to be healthier? Move your body. Exercise in the morning? You want to be more intentional? Plan in the morning. Write it down. You want to be more disciplined? Force yourself for 21 days. Not because it feels good, because it matters. Now, I'm going to tell you something that might make you uncomfortable. Waiting for motivation is a loser's game. It's what people say when they don't have the discipline to act. Oh, I'm just waiting for the right motivation. That's an excuse dressed up in psychology. That's procrastination with a TED Talk. Real people, serious people, they don't wait. They act. They move. They do the thing even though every part of them is saying not today. They understand that motivation is downstream from action, not upstream. You don't feel your way into action. You action your way into feeling. I knew a woman once who hated exercise, hated it. She dreaded the thought of the gym, but she had a goal. She wanted to run a 5K, so she forced herself. Every morning, she laced up her shoes and went for a jog. For the first week, it was torture. For the second week, it was still hard. But something happened in week 3. She started enjoying it. Not because she suddenly became a different person, but because her body adapted, her mind adapted. What felt foreign became familiar. What felt impossible became routine. Here's the key. She didn't wait for the love of exercise to start exercising. She exercised, and then the love came. That's the right order. That's how change actually happens. Most people have it backwards. They think the sequence is feel like doing it, then do it, then succeed. But that's not reality. The actual sequence is do it even though you don't feel like it, keep doing it, feel different, keep succeeding. The feelings are a result. They're not the prerequisite. They're the outcome. Jot this down. Your morning is where your future gets made. I want you to picture this. It's 5 in the morning. It's dark outside. It's quiet. It's peaceful. And you have a choice. You can do what most people do. Stay in bed. Let your mind wander. Check your phone. Ease into the day. Or you can do what the exceptional ones do. You can get up. You can move. You can read. You can plan. You can do something that matters before the day demands anything from you. That moment right there, that's the fork in the road. That's where the separation happens, not in the afternoon, not in the boardroom, right there, in the dark, in the quiet, with nobody watching. That's where the real work happens. Now, I've heard people say, but I'm not a morning person. I understand. Neither was I. I'm not naturally gifted at getting up early. I like sleep. I like comfort. I like the warmth of my bed on a cold morning. But here's what I learned. Nobody is naturally a morning person. People become morning people. They practice. They force themselves. They understand that being a morning person isn't about genetics or preference. It's about priority. It's about knowing that the morning is too valuable to waste. You can't afford to sleep until 7? You can't afford to spend an hour browsing the news? You can't afford to let your morning happen to you? It's too important. It's too powerful. The morning is where you take back control of your life. Think about a captain of a ship. He doesn't wake up in the afternoon and start steering. He's there early. He charts the course before the sea gets rough. He knows which direction he's heading before the crew shows up. And your life is the same way. You chart your course in the morning, or you'll be tossed around all day by everyone else's agenda. Here's what I observed after 30 years. The successful ones, they all have this in common. They treat their morning like a sacred appointment, not optional, not flexible, not negotiable. It's an appointment with themselves, and they show up even when they're tired, even when they didn't sleep well, even when they'd rather do something else. They show up because they know that this hour, this 3 hours, determines everything. And here's the thing about taking action before you feel like it. There's a kind of dignity in it. There's a strength that builds in you that you can't get any other way. When you look in the mirror and you know that this morning you did what you said you'd do, even though it was hard, even though you didn't feel like it, something shifts in how you see yourself. You become someone who keeps commitments. You become someone who's serious. You become someone who moves. That matters. That's real. That's not motivation. That's character. And character is built in moments when nobody's watching, when it would be easier to quit, when the right thing and the easy thing are different. The morning is where that gets built. Let me ask you something. What are you willing to give up? Because that's what morning action requires. You're giving up 30 extra minutes of sleep. You're giving up scrolling through your phone. You're giving up ease. And in exchange, you're getting what? You're getting your life back. You're getting direction. You're getting purpose. You're getting wins before 9 a.m. That's a trade I'd make every day of the week. Now, here's the practical part. You don't need much. You don't need fancy equipment or expensive programs or hours and hours of time. You need 30 minutes. That's all. 30 focused minutes, and your entire day transforms. First 10 minutes, move your body. A walk, some stretching, some movement. Wake up your metabolism. Wake up your mind. Second 10 minutes, read something that matters. A book, an article, something that expands your thinking, something that reminds you of who you're trying to become. Final 10 minutes, write it down. Your 3 most important things today: your focus, your commitment, your promise to yourself. That's it, 30 minutes, and you've already won. You've already moved. You've already thought clearly. You've already set your course. Everything else that day is just execution. But here's what separates people. Some people do this once. They feel good about it. They think about doing it again, but they don't. They slip back. The alarm goes off, and the snooze button wins. The resistance returns, and they're back to square one. But the ones who change, they do this every day, not 5 days a week, every day. Why? Because they understand that momentum works both ways. If you're consistent, momentum builds. It carries you. It makes everything easier. But if you're inconsistent, momentum tears you down. It lets you slip. It makes excuses easier to believe. Force yourself to take action every morning. That's not just motivation. That's a strategy. That's a philosophy. That's a way of living. Here's what happens when you do this. A week goes by. You're tired the first few days, but you keep going. A week goes by, and you notice something. You're sleeping better. You're more energetic. You're clearer in your thinking. You're moving towards your goals instead of away from them. 2 weeks goes by. People start noticing. They ask you what's different. You look more confident. You're more decisive. You're accomplishing things. And you can't really explain it. You just know something shifted. 3 weeks goes by. It's not a choice anymore. It's not a battle. You wake up and you do it because you've trained yourself, because your body expects it, because your identity has shifted. You're no longer someone who wishes they'd do this. You're someone who does this. You've become someone who keeps commitments even to themselves, especially to themselves. That's the transformation. That's what's possible. But only if you force yourself through the early days. Only if you do it even when you don't feel like it. Only if you keep going when the resistance is strongest. Jot this down. The easy way is hard for the rest of your life. The hard way is easy for the rest of your life. Most people want the easy way. They want comfort. They want to sleep in. They want to start their day by checking the news and scrolling through social media. That's easy for one morning. But it's hard for the rest of your life because nothing changes. You stay stuck. You stay frustrated. You stay where you are while everyone else moves forward. But the hard way, getting up early, forcing yourself to act, building your morning, that's hard for the first 2 weeks. But it's easy for the rest of your life because everything changes. Your energy changes. Your clarity changes. Your results change. Your entire life becomes easier because you took charge of the morning. So here's the question I want to leave you with. Which life do you want? The easy start with the hard ending or the hard start with the easy ending? Because you're going to choose one. You're going to choose one tomorrow morning when that alarm goes off. You're going to choose one in the next 30 seconds when you decide what you're going to do about what you've heard today. Will you go home and think about it, or will you take action? Will you tell yourself you'll start next week, or will you start tomorrow? Will you give yourself the gift of early morning, or will you let the comfortable bed convince you that it can wait? Here's what I know. Waiting doesn't work. Waiting is what got us here. Waiting is what everybody does. Waiting is the strategy of people who wish instead of do. And if you keep waiting, if you keep thinking about it, if you keep planning to start someday, nothing will change. Your life will continue to be the result of what you've been doing, which clearly isn't enough. But if you force yourself, if you choose discomfort for 2 weeks, if you choose early mornings, if you choose action before motivation, if you choose to do it, even though every part of you is resisting, then everything changes. Everything. Your health, your wealth, your relationships, your sense of purpose, your energy, your confidence, all of it connected to those early morning hours. That's worth forcing yourself for. That's worth the alarm going off and having to make the hard choice. That's worth the resistance. That's worth the temporary discomfort. Force yourself to take action every morning. Not because it feels good, because it works, because it changes things, because it's the leverage point that moves everything else. You've got this. You really do. All you have to do is show up tomorrow morning. Just that. Just show up. Do one thing. Move your body. Read something. Write something down. Do one thing before the world wakes up and demands your attention. That's where the real work happens. That's where the real power is. That's where everything begins. Do it tomorrow. Actually, do it. Not think about it. Not plan to do it. Do it. Your future is waiting, but it's not going to come looking for you. You have to go get it. And the best place to start is tomorrow morning, in the dark, when everyone else is sleeping, when you have the choice between comfort and greatness. Choose greatness.